Upgrades.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back yet again for another top 10 of the year. This is for 2023. It's myself, Lucas, and Jorge. What's going on, gents? Don't you start, Lucas. Don't you even start. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Don't talk about the intro.
People. Happy 2024. I'm not going to say anything else that I want to say right now.
Oh, anywho, so we kind of discussed it. In top of our top 10 listing, we have some honorable mentions we want to kind of go through the listing for. We're going to kind of go in rotation. I'll go from Lucas to Jorge, then myself, and then we're going to kind of break down our top 10 of the year and why we thought were some of the best of this year as well. So first up, Lucas, what were your honorable mentions? If you have one or two or three.
Well, because I was forced to have three, I didn't have one, but I was forced to have three. So my three honorable mentions of the year are films that I really like, but just missed my top 10. I'll start from the lowest to the highest. First up will be Rustin.
Hey, he's right behind me.
Yeah, that movie there, starring Coleman Domingo. I thought the movie was amazing. I remember seeing it at TIFF. I was blown away by the film there. And I was able to overlook some of the flaws when I first saw it, but when you get back to it, you can nitpick it out of your top 10. Some people, I think it will still be in their top 10. And it definitely is one of the close ones for me this year. My next up is Spider-Verse, which amazingly did not make my top 10 films of the year. But this was something else I was absolutely blown away by when I saw it. I thought this is like one of the best animated films I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. It has heart. You care about the characters. You care about the situations. It's an amazing film, and it was just outside of my top 10. And the last film just outside of my top 10 was a toss-up because I couldn't decide if I wanted to go Barbie, which is definitely outside of my top 10, or if I wanted to go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is also outside of my top 10, but I'll do both and combine them as one. So technically I have 4 now since they made me think about it. So both of those films are great. I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is the best animated film of the year. It just missed my top 10, but it's an amazing film that I absolutely love. And then next up is Barbie for me. Barbie just is outside of my top 10. I think it's possibly one of the best performances of the year by Margot Robbie in it. I love the way it's written. I think it's one of the smartest films of the year, but it just missed my top 10.
Okay. Thank you, Lucas. All right. Next on deck for honorable mentions is Jorge.
Interesting. All right. Mine is definitely very different than Lucas's. I'll throw that out there now. I'll go least to almost making it there. So for me, it would be Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. This movie was one that like a lot of people slept on due to everything that was happening with like Wizarding of the Coast. But it's one of those movies that the more I've seen it, the more I enjoy it. And if it's playing in the background, like I actually enjoy watching this movie. And I think that's one that a lot of people just kind of slept on. But for me, it was just fun. The next one is actually one I saw near the end of the year. And it's called The Boys in the Boat. I'm not sure if either one of you guys have seen that one yet or not, but this one, it's basically think about the movie Miracle, only with like crew. And it was just awesome. Like storyline was fun. Like you got really invested in the characters. Definitely like that. And then the last one that just barely cracked out, just out of my top 10 was American Fiction. Um, that was one that I thoroughly enjoyed, was loved all of it. But it just didn't make my top 10. But yeah, those are my three honorable mentions. Up to you, Sam. And you're muted.
And see, it's just keep on messing it all up. So my first honorable mention is a movie that I just recently saw. It was on Netflix, and I think if I had more time to kind of process it, um, it may have made my list. I'm not sure. I had like a lot of heavy hitters in this one, but I'm talking about Leave the World Behind. Leave the World Behind for me was so interesting and engaging that it kind of just caught me off guard. It's not what you think it is. It's kind of well. Uh-oh. Getting a lot of feedback. Let's see. Okay. I just muted you, Jorge. Sorry about that. But I love the way they handled the execution of what the explanation for what the movie is about. I mean, I think Julia Roberts and Mahershala have some really dynamic character development. But more than anything, I just was enthralled about where the story was gonna go. Like every single beat, I was kind of like on board for it. So that was one of my honorable mentions. The next one that I think that I was gonna say was Dream Scenario. Dream Scenario is such a weird movie. But at the same time, I think it was really smart. I think that how Nicolas Cage kind of handles the performance of a man that kind of is working basically like a Freddy Krueger, but not. And he's such a humble, meek guy, but he's not. It's such a very complex character, but the way they kind of handle it and the way they kind of use imagery to kind of dissect like how people handle social media dynamics is really well done. I really actually enjoyed that one. And then probably the last one was one that I got to see. I'm trying to get it up here. If I can pull up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull up everything while I'm doing it at the same time. It's 1001. 1001 broke my heart. And I think it had one of the best performances this year. And the thing about Tiana Taylor in this performance for me was the fact that I believed everything about it. It just felt so natural, and it kind of felt like an immersed story that I was like so captivated by. So this is one of my favorites this year. It almost broke into my top 10. It just didn't make it, but it did get, I think, a nomination for me when it came to the scripting and, of course, her amazing acting. But let's go ahead and kind of go through the list of top 10s. All right. So what is our number 10? Lucas, what is your number 10?
Oh, you're gonna start with me first, huh? So my number 10 film of the year is Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's so weird.
It is one of the longest films I've ever seen in my life. Uh, but it's so well acted and so well executed. I think that um the biggest issue that I know a lot of people had with it is that it didn't focus enough on the Osage people in the storyline, and that's what took people out of it. For me, on the other end, that's one of the things that engaged me the most of it in this film is that it took its time explaining the villains more than it took time of explaining their victims, because you needed to understand their mindset to really care about the people, and I thought that was brilliantly done. It's one of the best directed films I've seen this year. So, Killers of the Flower Moon is number 10 for me.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, it's getting interesting. All right, Jorge, what's your number 10?
Miranda's Victim. I think that one for me was just all-star cast. I mean, you had Andy Garcia, you had Luke Wilson, Ryan Felipe. I mean, the list goes on, but this one was one that I saw, I think near the beginning of the year, I think, and it just kind of stuck with me. When I was going through this list, I just kept, this one just kept coming up, and the acting in this was great. It's based on, kind of like a historical event that happened, which, it's why they include the Miranda rights now when they arrest people. But overall, this was done great. Even the score to this was really nice. But yeah, that's my top 10 right there.
Okay. So this is about to get interesting, because my number 10 was Killers of a Flower Moon.
Oh.
I don't know how this happens every year.
Why every
Every
damn
year, like we just randomly picked a certain joint. But yeah, I mean, I'm a harper to kind of what Lucas said in certain extents. I do think that from a directing standpoint, this is one of Martin's best. I think that from a technical level, like some of the shots and imagery and how they kind of handled like the dissension that's going on, but even more so than that, like the performances were just amazing. Like Robert Downey Jr., like not Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro played one of the most interesting antagonists that was just so sleazy, but yet so charismatic at the same time. Where you got somebody like a powerhouse of Leonardo DiCaprio that plays this meek pushover that's just being used, and Lily just plays such a strong, fierce, but yet guarded character. It's one of the best directed films this year. It's just very long. I think the thing about it is, would I go and watch it immediately again? I think I would watch it with other people, but that's why it's kind of at my number 10 of this year. But make no mistake, it is one of the best films this year. All right. So
here we go. It's
number 9.
started.
Yep. All right, Lucas, what's your number 9?
And here's the sad part. I'm pretty sure it's a good chance my number 9 is going to end up on Sam's list. I just don't know if it's going to be number 9 on his list. And my number 9 film is a film that I saw at the Toronto Film Festival that has not been released yet. So again, this is me breaking it all down of doing movies that I saw that didn't get released yet. But my number 9 film is Sing Sing. This film here is one of the most powerful films I saw this year. It stars Coleman Domingo, Divine G. It's a film about the prison system putting on plays with inmates in it as to giving them a way to escape their reality. This is, for me, this was Coleman's best performance of the year.
Yep.
I thought this film would be released this year. No, it was picked up by, I want to say, Sony Classics. Picked it up coming out of TIFF, and I'm surprised they didn't release it this year, even though Coleman is like has so many roles out this year, and I thought they probably thought it was too convoluted to release it. But this is his best performance that I've seen on screen. This film is powerful on so many levels. Divine G, who's a former inmate who's acting in his first film ever, is damn near immaculate in this film. This film will tug at your heartstrings. This film will break you down completely, while at the same time giving you hope on that maybe we can find ways to actually rehabilitate inmates and give them something to look forward to while they're incarcerated. It's a really great movie that I can't wait for more people to see.
Okay. All right, Lucas. Why you always do this? It's fine. It's fine. All right, Jorge, you're next. What's your number 9, man?
I can guarantee you my list is not going to match anybody, so y'all are safe. So I saw a lot of obscure movies this year. So my number 10 was my number 9, sorry, was actually a movie called Bark. And this one, it's not necessarily that the acting will blow you away or is completely, out of this world. The story though is so fascinating, and basically this guy wakes up tied up to a tree and just kind of goes through hell and back, type of stuff. But the more you kind of think you have this story figured out, the more it just keeps kind of like twisting and turning. And when you kind of figure out at the end what's happening and what all like went down, like you literally are just shook to your core. And it's fascinating. Like Michael Weston, he's the main actor who's basically tied up. He does such a great job, and it's so believable, and you kind of see and you feel the panic in him throughout the whole movie, like from start to finish, and you kind of see all his regrets, and it's almost like his reckoning with like all the decisions he's made. But no, yeah, this one was one of my good sleeper hits that I know not many people saw it, but it's definitely one to watch for sure.
Thank you, Jorge. All right. So my number 9. Before I say my number 9, I'm gonna say this. Lucas always does this every year. Every year he goes and says, "Oh, like I'm gonna put this a part of my top 10, even though it doesn't came out yet." if I didn't do that this year I did not do that. If I had, Sing Sing would be my number 3 or my number 4. Straight up. Sing Sing absolutely was powerful. Coleman's best performance. It's crazy. I've talked to Coleman about three different movies this year, but this was his best. This was his best. So unfortunately, it's not on my list, but it would have been if I would have counted it. But Lucas did it, so it is what it is. My number 9 is American Fiction. I think that Jeffrey Wright was fantastic. The thing about American Fiction, the first time I watched it, I was like, this is pretty good. Like I enjoyed it, but I didn't know that I would really start to love it the more I watched. I watched it again 2 more times, and whether it is the realistic family dynamics or if it is the actual satire from the way it's actually playing up, like this is well written, this is well directed, this is well acted. I mean, Sterling K. Brown is amazing, Tracy Ellis Ross is amazing, but I think the thing about the character Monk is such an engaging, interesting individual and how they play it up in this movie, all the way down to the end. Like this is one of the best films this year, but it's right now my number 9. So American Fiction is my number 9. Okay, number 8.
Looks like only Jorge is stepping outside the box here, because clearly, eventually, Jorge, we're gonna have to match some of these movies. It's gonna happen eventually. Okay, I know that.
I tell you what, he
better
not have nothing about a table on that guy's turn list, or I'm gonna cut him out. I'm gonna cut him out. He better not have nothing about no table. Sorry, go ahead.
But I know one film that may not be on other people's top 10 lists. It should be. It's definitely on mine at number 8, which is the best action movie I've seen this year and possibly the last 3 or 4 years. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is my number 8 film of the year. This film, this performance is unbelievable. I think at times when we get these big granular action films, you expect them to not necessarily live up to what their potential could be. This film has some of the best stunts you'll ever see humanly possible. While it's one of the best written action movies I've seen since Skyfall with the James Bond film, like this film has so much emotion tied into it through an amazing performance by Tom Cruise. And when I say amazing, he literally jumped off of a cliff on a motorcycle for a stunt for this movie. This movie is sickening, and it's so good. Even when I was going through my top 10 films of the year, and it constantly kept on making its way in my top 10, I said, wait a minute, it can't be as great as I'm thinking it is. I went back and watched it again, said, oh my God, this movie is mind-blowing. So my number 8 film is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
That's so interesting. All right, number 8. Jorge, what's your number 8?
Mine is mine's another odd and obscure one called Share. I saw all like the weird independent films and like the ones that not
Don't
many
worry about Jorge. I think we got one film that is on my list. I think it's going to be on your list.
Oh, it better be. And I know which one you're talking about. No, so Share was just such a unique film, and it's the first film that's ever been shot basically with a still camera. So this whole time you're watching this movie, it is literally like watching a 10 by 10 room, and that's basically it. All the characters basically don't have names, they just have numbers for their names. So for example, like Melvin Gregg, who's the main character, he's number 14. And this movie, just when you actually see it and as soon as it ends, like you're just left shook there. Like it's the topics that it talks about and how social media and trying to get likes and influence, basically how that truly affects you, and it almost creates this own little jail cell for you. But overall, I mean, this movie realistically only had 4 actors in it, and it was so impactful just kind of seeing it and seeing the struggles that some of these people were dealing with, and how you get people who completely hate each other to kind of becoming buddies, to mourning when, like, stuff happens to each other. It is phenomenal. Like, if you see this movie, you will probably put down Instagram, TikTok, all that social media stuff for a hot minute because it hits you in a way when you finish it that you don't really understand how to move forward in kind of like this digital world that we're in. Like it's very impactful and it's one that I, would strongly recommend in terms of just seeing how much of confinement some of these networks can actually put on you. So yeah, I'll say definitely Share was my number 8 for me.
Okay. Okay. All right. My number 8 was from Netflix again, and that is Maestro. Bradley Cooper directed. The thing about Maestro to me, it has one of the best acted scenes I've seen in any movie this year. Two of some of the best performances here, specifically Carrie's performance as the wife. I thought she was amazing. But the way that Bradley handles the directing for this and the amount of devotion that he had with this, not just in the role, but every little small little intricate moment and scene, and then how they handle sound, how they handle transitions. Some of these transitions feel so classically done that I was just so impressed. And it was kind of like it was this deep dive into an individual that I knew nothing about up into this film outside of the name. And I think that they handled it so well. It was easily one of my favorites this year, but I still to this day think that there's a cathedral scene that Bradley does towards the apex of the film. I think it's one of the best scenes that I've seen all year. But yeah, yeah. So Maestro is my number 8. Okay, where are we going now with number 7, Lucas?
Oh man. Well, again, my number 7 film is another film that I saw at the film festival that I know it got nominated for a couple of Independent Spirit Awards, but I'm not sure if it got released yet. But it's still on my list because I absolutely love this movie. And this one is called We Grown Now. I saw this at TIFF. This is an amazing film about two young men who grew up in the Cabrini Green projects and how they use their mind to escape their environment that they're in. It's led by two kid actors that are absolutely phenomenal in this movie, and by Journey Smollett, who plays the mother of one of the kids in the film. This film is it's about a kid deciding that my imagination can take me anywhere. And that message alone is so powerful and resonates so much throughout this film. When I saw it at TIFF during the screening after it was over, me crying, it's 5 or 6 other critics who were in there were bawling uncontrollably as it was watching the end of this film. It is just so powerful. Its message of friendship, its message of not letting your environment destroy your mentality. And that's what we see throughout these kids through this entire film. It's a scene in here that's one of the most powerful scenes I saw this year of the kids looking up at a cracked ceiling and on a dirty mattress in an abandoned apartment. And when they're looking up at a cracked ceiling, you see they're forming a galaxy with their mind as they're seeing stars in between the cracks in the ceiling. They're using their imagination to escape exactly what they're in at that moment. It is so powerful. This is a film again when people can see it, because I know it got picked up again out of TIFF. I just don't know when it's gonna be released. This is another one that got picked up by Sony Pictures. See, Sony picks up these movies and just don't release them, which makes no sense to me. But when you get to see this film is, I think it's gonna resonate with so many people who are raised in these environments, raised in the projects, and it will take you back to a childhood if you have been like I was in that environment of just remembering like nothing seemed impossible. Like everything seemed larger than life, and you never fully understood the circumstances that you were in. So my number 7 is We Grown Now.
Okay, okay. All right, Jorge, what is your number 7, sir?
So my number 7 was already talked about, so I won't talk too much about it. But I had Mission Impossible on here.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, in terms of an action movie, like there's just like Tom Cruise is drinking some special water. I'm just gonna say that because that dude just doesn't age. And for him to just do all these stunts, and the one that Lucas was talking about is just like one of the many, and like some of the driving stunts that happens in this movie, it is just phenomenal. Like in terms of an action movie, like this is the blueprint. Like if you look at any of the Mission Impossible movies, it's weird when you have a series that has had as many movies as this that just keep getting better. Not trying to call out any movies, Fast and Furious, but it's like this is just all believable. Like, and in a weird way, like that like all the stuff he's doing is like not possible in real life, but then you think about it and you're like, well, wait, he actually did this crap in real life.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where for me, this movie is like the epitome of like what action movies should be. So yeah, so that's why Mission Impossible made my top 7 right here.
So really quick question, Jorge. So what do you think was the best action movie this year? Was it John Wick or was it Mission Impossible? What was the best action movie? Between the two, because it maybe you might have another one, but between those two.
Between the two, I would go with Mission Impossible. I enjoyed that more than John Wick. And I know I'm gonna get crucified in the comments because everyone loves John Wick. But no, I just
maybe not.
Yeah,
John
no,
Wick is
I'll say Mission Impossible for me.
John Wick is kind of childish. Like it's a lot of it's a video game. They're not childish.
Yeah.
It's a video game.
John Wick reminds me of like when you're playing a video game and you can't beat it and you get the game genie. I don't know if y'all remember that or if that's like a genie, or you clip it in and you put in like the cheat code. That's John Wick.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm at with John, but they're both good, but no, I will have to lean more towards Mission Impossible.
Oh, it's fine because I was asking it because it was there's a lot of elaborate stunts with both of them. But I can agree to that. There are moments where you're playing, like I almost said playing, you're watching John Wick like you're playing Max Payne. Like straight up. Like if anybody remember Max Payne, like he's in there jumping and anyway. So I'm gonna go to my number 7. My number 7 is a bit of a dark movie. I think it is probably one of the best foreign films this year. And I'm talking about Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall, the baseline of it is you have a small family. You have a child, a mother, and a dad. And all of a sudden, the child kind of goes out because he's blind. He's getting walked by the dog. There's a lot of music playing. And all of a sudden, he comes back and he sees his dad dead. And no one knows what is going on. And everybody's kind of thinking the only logical explanation has got to be the mom. And you just don't know. And the way that they handle the acting, the way they handle the setup, the way they handle everything about how they draw things into even the case, it is so freaking good. Like, and I saw this last minute. I never thought that this would be a part of my top 10, but this is one of the best films this year. Not just best foreign films. This is one of the best films this year. And it's so weird because with Anatomy of Fall, the actress, God, I'm gonna mess up her name. I'm gonna make sure I get it right. Hold on. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm just gonna say that she is also in another film. It's Sandra, but I don't know how to spell her last name. She's in another film called The Zone of Interest, and that broke my heart as well. And in both movies, she is phenomenal. Like this is the best performance caliber role and best supporting performance with The Zone of Interest. Like she's amazing in this, and even the child actor in this one as well. But yeah, that is my number 7 for this year. All right, number 6, Lucas.
Just outside the top 10 at this point. My number 6 film was already mentioned actually, and it was mentioned as someone's. I can't remember which one of you mentioned it as honorable mention. My number 6 film is 1001. When I saw this at Sundance, I said this is one of the most powerful films of the year. Anchored by, to me, a performance that won't get the credit it should, but quite possibly is the best performance this year by an actress.
Yeah.
And Tiana Taylor's performance here in 1001. From the aspects of her playing a role as a struggling mother to the heartbreak we get to the end of this film, it's leaps and bounds. I don't think you can put together a performance as well as she did in this film and not normally get the attention that it deserves. Unfortunately, because of the time this film was released, I don't think people have even forgotten about it, or
Mhm.
people act like this movie just didn't exist. But from a story aspect of going through generations of heartache and pain that this mother and son's relationship goes through, and how it starts off so young, and then we get to the teenage years, and then we see what happens by the end of the film. Like, it takes you through so many ups and downs, but throughout the whole film you clearly sense the love that this woman has for her child and what she's willing to do for her child up until you get to the end of this film. And it is one of the most heartbreaking endings humanly possible.
Yep.
And then it's a twist that just catches you so off guard. This movie to me should be getting a lot more attention. But again, because it was released so early in the year, because I think Amazon picked it up coming out of Sundance and almost released it immediately, I think at that point, a lot of people have lost focus of it. But if you get a chance to check it out, this is definitely a film you need to see, and a performance that, again, I can't name 3 actresses with better performances this year than Tiana Taylor in 1001. So that's my number 6 film. Number 6, right? Yeah, number 6, 1001.
Completely agree with Lucas on that one. All right, Jorge, you're up.
My number 6 was just a fun-filled story that I just could relate to because I'm a wrestling geek, and I put the Iron Claw up in number 6 just because I knew about this story beforehand, but just after actually seeing it being portrayed on screen, it was amazing. Like, this movie brought everything that I could have wanted out of this film. Like, I thought Zac Efron did a great job. Jeremy White or Alan White did phenomenal as well. Like, all the characters just did so well. Like, Lily James did well. It's one of these movies that I think it influenced my decision more just because kind of I grew up watching wrestling, back in the day, and
Mhm.
you kind of hear about this, this family and all this, and that's kind of how wrestling was back in the day, where it was just a pack of family members, or cousins, and it's still like that to this day. But this was just one that was done so well that it's almost like you watch this and you watch other wrestling movies like The Warrior and all that stuff, and you kind of just want to be like, we need to stop making wrestling movies because you kind of see like the real side of it, and it's depressing as all get out. And this movie was one of those, just kind of seeing all the heartache that happened with this movie, and that family specifically. Like, if you understood this story, like you were tearing up and crying throughout it, and especially when you knew that stuff was about to happen. But overall, yeah, this one was my number 6 for this year for sure.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna say this. My number 6 is gonna be really triggering to certain individuals in this. um, but it is for me one of my favorite movies this year, and I'm just gonna just post it up here. The Color Purple. Color Purple is one of my favorite films this year. I do love musicals, I really do. But I think that this has got some very strong and powerful performances. Probably the standout, of course, is Danielle. Danielle's performance is one of the best this year. But I think that from how they frame this story that we all know, I mean, some people have read the book, some people have seen the play, some people have remember the 1985 version, and more people 1985 version. But for me, I personally felt like this was something that felt really uplifting and empowering, whereas the original one is a classic in its own right because of the way they processed the story. And I love the narrative how they originally had it. But with this, like by the end of the movie, I literally felt uplifted. I literally felt like I picked apart different characters and looked at them in dimensions I never had before. But they also, on top of that, added really good choreography. I think Blitz and how he frames certain things as far as cinematography, I think he handles it very well. But I just really enjoyed this film. Like I don't really have any negatives with it, but I also have not seen the play. I've not read the book, and I only remember the 1985 version. But for me, this was one of my favorite films. And by the end of the movie, I did feel very empowered and encouraged, and I don't know. I just really enjoyed The Color Purple. That was my number 6 for this year. All right, so now we're about to hit number 5. Lucas, we're at the halfway mark. What is your number 5?
My number 5 film is the only foreign film that will ever be on my list. And it's actually the only horror movie on my list, which is also weird.
Oh, I know.
And my number 5 film is Sleep.
I'm so mad I didn't.
This is one of the most realistic horror / comedy / thrillers you will ever see in your life. I am not going to even do the disrespect and attempt to announce these people's names. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say this is a story about possession. It is a story about a young pregnant wife as she's trying to cope with her husband going through the most terrifying things humanly possible. This film, I saw it during TIFF, and I was blown away by it. I don't watch foreign films. No, 9 times out of 10, I will skip you. I'm not sitting through one. But with Sleep, it just pulls you in from the moment the film comes on. This film pulls you in, and it's 2 winning performances. Again, along with a storyline that's just extremely realistic. Like normally when you get possession films, especially the way Hollywood does possession films, is a certain amount of spectacle to it that makes it where you can separate it from reality. In Sleep, they decided, yeah, we're going to strip all of that away and terrify you by presenting you with a possession film that could actually happen and put them in realistic situations that can actually happen. Literally, it all started with just her husband not being able to sleep. And then it snowballs into so many other things that are absolutely terrifying. So my number 5 film of the year is Sleep.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of leave like a small RIP to the main lead of that, Lee Sun-kyu. If you've seen Parasite, he was in that, but he passed away recently. I think it was like December or November. But yeah, I've heard that his performance was really great, but he unfortunately passed away the end of 2023. So, all right, Jorge.
You
What
can
is
just put it
your
right, you can put it right back up. Sleep was my number 5.
no?
Sleep was it. This movie, I think Lucas, you talked about it, and then once I got to see it, I couldn't stop talking about it for a hot minute. Like this movie
Mhm.
was just phenomenal. Like there's just so much to unpack in this movie. Like, and I think Lucas, you said it best. Like, it's not your cookie cutter like possession type film or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like they went so far outside of the norm, and just little things that you saw. And like there's this one scene that's just haunting, like when the guy, like insomnia and sleepwalking is a hell of a thing, but when he just like kind of is about to walk out the window, and
Yes.
the way that they filmed that part, I'm just like, yo. And something that Lucas didn't mention, like this movie, like the main actress, like she just has a newborn. So
Mhm.
all of you guys that are like parents, like think about like your mama bear or papa bear type of scenarios happening, and you have this thing basically living with you. This movie was phenomenal. It definitely, it is one to watch. And it's you never want someone to benefit off of like someone's death, like, because that sounds terrible to say that, but this movie deserves to be watched. Just to like, his acting in this movie was superb. The main actress in this movie did a great job. Like, this movie was amazing from start to finish. So yeah, so that's I'm with you, Lucas, on this one. I think that's the first one we've matched, so we'll take it.
No, Mission
That's the
Impossible.
second. It's the second.
We matched Mission Impossible.
Number.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
it is
yes.
the same
I was
number.
gonna say,
Yeah,
'cause that doesn't happen normally.
that never happens for y'all. Some kind of way it happens with me and Lucas. Some kind
Yeah,
of way.
And we were 1 apart from Mission Impossible. I had it at
that is
number
true.
8, and you had it at number 7.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So my number 5 is the Holdovers. Holdovers is honestly just one of the best movies this year. I mean, the supporting actor Dominic, this is his first role, and he knocks it out the park. Divine Joy Randolph plays one of the best characters and one of the best performances from a supporting role. And Paul Giamatti, he's a whole pound. We all know that. But it's their cohesive family that they kind of create in the midst of so much craziness that makes this so grounded. And every single character has their own different traumas that they're trying to overcome, and some kind of a way they're trying to figure it out together. Like even Paul Giamatti's character is not a likable character, but he is the glue. And it's just one of the best films this year. I mean, I don't have to sell this movie. Just watch it. Honestly, it is easily my number 5. I wish I could bring it up higher, but it's my number 5 this year. Okay, number 4, Lucas.
My number 4 is for me, it was the best film that Netflix put out this year. It is the only film of Netflix's on my list, and that is They Cloned Tyrone. Is my number 4 film of the year. This film with this messaging is amazing. Like it brought up so many emotions while you're watching this film, which is an action type / dark comedy, but it brought up so many emotions about the way the Black community is viewed and a way that they use subtle things to control the Black community. This film did an amazing job at just setting up a premise that while it sounds outlandish, everyone who could possibly be in those communities could 1,000% think that something like this could happen. This is John Boyega's best performance that I've seen. Jamie Foxx was amazing in it. Parrish, forget her last name, who plays the female lead in the film, is also great. This is just an immaculate film. I would have never thought that this type of film would come from Netflix, and it will be as powerful as it is. It presents itself at first just like a silly comedy, but as you're watching it, as you get the messaging behind it, as you get the messaging about controlling people behind it, it gets more powerful and more powerful and more powerful as the film goes on. So my number 4 film is They Cloned Tyrone.
Okay. All right. Jorge.
Yeah,
What's
mine.
yours?
My number 4 is actually Saltburn. Um, this movie
Ooh.
was it was so twisted and so gross, but yet so like you got stuck to this story, and you kind of wanted to see more and more of what was happening and how it was all going to unfold. I think acting wise, all the actors did phenomenal. I think Barry kind of just killed his role as Oliver. It was just so intense and so like twisted in terms of this like psychological kind of thriller of a movie. But the story alone was just fascinating. And I think this was one of those movies that I saw and it just kind of stuck with me. In terms of like some of the scenes that they have and the imagery that they use
Oof.
will just stick with you in ways that it shouldn't. That's the nicest way that I'll put it. But it's one of those films that you watch and you're just like, whoa. Like it at the end, like within like the last 10 minutes of the movie or 5 minutes when everything gets unfolded, you're just kind of like flabbergasted. But yeah, no, this movie I thought was phenomenal, and that's why it's definitely in my number 4 right here for sure.
Okay. All right. All right. So, well with Saltburn, that was actually gonna be one of my honorable mentions. Like it is, some of the scenes in that are just.
It's wild.
I don't even know how to really describe it. I was kind of saying somebody. I was like, I think the director went a little bit too over the top. But I digress. Let me go ahead and get to my number 4. My number 4 was a movie I probably saw in the last quarter. It was like late December, and I saw it in Los Angeles randomly at IMAX. And this movie was like, it's a foreign film, but it's one of my favorites this year, and I think it's one of the best. I don't think it's going to get enough recognition at all, but I'm talking about Godzilla minus one. Godzilla minus one was one of my favorites this year because one, Godzilla is actually the villain. Like he is terrorizing everyone on a vindictive level. But I think the thing about it is that I care so much about the main characters. This main character is going through so many different things because of his honor, because of his family, and yet his own traumas. He's dealing with PTSD on a different level while also trying to become a father and trying to protect everyone around him. And just how they handle character progression, how they handle even like some of the action moments. Like there are scenes in this that are just iconic. There's a scene that has him kind of just in the middle of the street where everything is decaying and all of a sudden it's just like raining ash and just dirt and rain. This was one of my favorite films this year. I wish I could put it higher because I haven't seen anything like this. This is easily one of my favorite Godzilla movies I've ever seen. Highly recommend you go and check out Godzilla minus one. So
Now
number
we at the
three.
top three.
Yep.
Doom, doom, doom. All three, I can say this, I give you a hint. All three of my top three are comedies. So that's weird unto itself, because that's not a genre that I tend to lean to a lot. So my number three film is The Holdovers. This is an immaculate film. Divine Joy Randolph, when I saw this film, I literally said, this is going to be the best performance of the year. I don't care if it's supporting, lead, female, or male. This is going to be the best performance of the year. And that has not changed. She is the heart and soul of this film, playing Mary, a mother who's going through the most traumatic thing humanly possible for a parent to go through, of losing their child. And at the same time, she has to take care of other people's children. And then when we get this family dynamic between the three, it's just gut wrenching for the stuff that we watch her go through, along with Paul Giamatti, who's Paul Giamatti. I mean, this is an Alexander Payne film. When I saw it, I said, this is the best Alexander Payne film I've seen. And that says a lot because him and Paul did Sideways also. But this film, it just felt so real while you're watching it. You believed every character in this film. And that's something that you don't normally get in films, where you can care about every character, even Dominic's character. You truly care about the outcome that happens with these three. You care about what's going to happen over the holidays as we get deeper and deeper into the story of each character, especially Paul's character, about the trauma behind everything that he's been through, or why he's still teaching at this university, is amazing. So my number three film is The Holdovers.
Ooh, that was a strong one. All right, Jorge, what's your number three?
So I cheated for my number three, and I'm just gonna be brutally honest here, Sam, and you're not gonna like this. And
What do you mean you cheated?
yeah, so I have a 2-1.
Oh,
I have a two
Talking
and one.
about.
Yeah. So ready? So my number three, they're both animated films, and I had to put both of them on my list because I enjoyed both of them. So I'm just putting this as, for me, the best animated films of, out of my top 10, because I couldn't decide over either one. So one obviously is going to be Spider-Man, across the Spideyverse. I think you don't got to say much about this movie. Everyone, just about everyone, should have seen it by now and should know about it. But that's like my 3A, and my 3B is my first slam dunk. And this is a movie that not many people saw, but when you see this movie, you get engrossed into that storyline.
Yeah.
And it's one that not many people really have heard about, and it's getting slept on. And that's one of the reasons why I put it up here, because after I saw it, and I saw it with a group of us. We were all together watching this, and it's crazy when you're watching like an anime type movie, and you find yourself cheering yourself on and like rooting. And it's crazy because it's one of the first films that I've seen with like a group of people that we're all cheering and all like at this, like we're all vibing at the same tempo.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole movie, like we're cheering, we're like, it's like if you're watching a live freaking basketball game.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing like everything that the main character is going through and kind of all that stuff, I couldn't leave this movie out in terms of having some type of animated movie in here. Everyone's gonna put Spider-Man on their list, you know, in one shape, way, or form. And that's, you know, everyone knows what Spider-Man was and how amazing that was. But this is one that I feel, if you're into animated movies, like I wouldn't feel right not putting this here so you can at least hear about it. But this is one that definitely people should check out. Like you will not be disappointed.
I'll allow it.
I figured you would.
Yeah, no, he's right, because honestly, like the first Slam Dunk, it's not getting recognized. I think that Ninja Turtles, Suzume, Boy and the Heron, Spider-Verse, but it really should be the first Slam Dunk. It shouldn't be Mario. It shouldn't be Elementals. I think the first Slam Dunk is one of the best. I think it just came out so early.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're not marketing it towards any kind of war contention at all. But yeah, no, that was really good. So I'm glad you actually mentioned that. Man, you threw me off. Now I got to go back and find what my number 3 was. Ooh, mine's is a little more serious. So this is I don't know if this actually came out yet. I don't think it's actually come out yet. But my
So
number
you don't
3.
put Sing Sing on your list, but you put this on your list. See? 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 Look at you. Look at you. See?
Wait,
You did
hold
have a
on.
film
Let
that
me
did-
clarify.
You do have a
if it's
film that
out
didn't come out yet.
Do you even know what movie I'm talking about? It did come out. Did it? Is it out? Yeah, it's out. It's out. Okay. All right. So Origin is the movie that I'm talking about. Origin.
Does it come out to February
No,
15th?
it's out right now. I'm looking at Showtimes. It's available right now on I'm looking at the Showtimes. It's available. Anyway, Origin, I saw it at TIFF, and it broke my heart. It is from Ava DuVernay. It is based on the cast, the Origins of Discontents book, and I'd never heard about the caste system at all. And this movie, it kind of surrounds the person that wrote the book and what they were going through during that time, and how they kind of dissect the different levels of emotional turmoil while also dealing with discrimination, while also figuring out what does that mean as far as this caste system. It's such an engaging film that it made me think. Like it made me think, it made me ponder, it made me emote. I was absolutely crying in the theaters. There's a scene that happens at the very last moment of the movie that takes place next to a pool. I was weeping. But I think that Ingenue does an amazing job in her performance in this one. But I think I love how Ava is so bold in her directing approach with this, that it's either going to land with some people or it's not. But I think this is one of the best films this year. I just don't think it's being pushed the way it could have been if they would have kind of pushed it a little bit earlier. But this for me is my number 3, absolutely Origin. All right, down to number 2.
Now that we're at the top 2, got to ask a question here. Wait a minute. What's the chances that all of our top 2s are on other people's lists? Who would you say?
Wait, say it again.
What's the chances that all our top 2s have been mentioned before or are on each other's lists?
It's a 50-50 chance.
I'm about to break that 50-50 chance because I'm going to name a film that I'm pretty sure neither one of you are going to name. So, my number 2 film of the year, which barely missed my number 1 film of the year, and this is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, is my number 2 film of the year.
Good film.
This, quite possibly, is the best coming-of-age story I've ever seen in my life. It's based off of one of the best books I've ever read in my life, but it's very rare that a film can live up to the book. As we're introduced to Margaret and her family as they move from one house to the next, and just her trying to be a coming of age girl and everything that she goes through, led by an amazing performance by Rachel McAdams, a performance that's not getting remotely close to the attention that it should. Matter of fact, a film that is not getting remotely close to the attention it should, because it got released, as Sam said, with first slam dunk, it got released so early in the year that I think people are forgetting about it. This is one of the best ensemble casts ever on film. And what I mean by that is everyone's performance is immaculate in this film. And it's hard to describe it if you don't know the story, you don't know the book that is based off of. It's really about a girl learning about her menstrual cycle. It's a girl learning what it means to be a woman, and that coming of age of it in a time period where women were attempting to be independent. It's literally it's based off a book that became central reading for all girls. And it's very rare that you get a book that's so great that has been banned in so many schools because of the subject matter of it, that a film could live up to it. But Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret lives up to it in spades. This is, again, possibly the best coming of age story that I've ever seen. It is so good, so funny, and so powerful. So that's my number 2 film.
Lucas, who's doing distribution for that movie?
Oh man,
because it's not Neon and it's not Searchlight. I was wondering because they're just not pushing it.
Well, no, this movie came out in like February.
Oh, that's why.
Well,
so it's just so early.
Yeah, this movie came out super early. I mean, maybe not February, but it came out super early this year. This is not like a film that just recently got released. So, like, that's the part of the problem, that it came out so early. It critically, it blew critics away when it came out. It's just that since it came out so early, people forgotten about it. It's part of the issue with the system of, if you don't play that studio game of holding films right up until December, you run the risk of this. But this was also such an important film because this film is, to me, probably essential watching, and will become that way coming forward. And it is scored by someone I absolutely don't like, because all his scores make my head hurt, except for this one.
That's Hans Zimmer?
Yes. This movie is almost as perfect as you can possibly make a film. And I'm just sad that a lot of people haven't seen it. Everybody knows the book. And I know normally films don't live up to books. This is not the case. This is the perfect companion piece to the book. So if you got a teenage girl, if you got a girl coming into that point in her life, like, this is essential reading normally, but this is also a film that you could watch with her, and maybe it'll open up more questions and you can grow a different form of relationship with any young girls in your life.
It's interesting. The actress that's in this, and she was Cassie in the Ant-Man movies, the first 2. That's pretty dope. Didn't even realize that. All right, Jorge, what is your number 2, sir?
I will just correct Lucas, because if you're watching this when you're a teenage girl, it's too late. This will be for pre-teenage girls. Just throwing that out.
That's what I meant. I meant pre-teenage girls, not teenage girls.
Because my daughter saw this. That's the only reason I was like, my daughter.
Yeah, because the girl is 11 in the story, so she's clearly not a teenager.
Yeah, no, my number 2, which is, it's silly. I should have seen this movie earlier, and I didn't see this movie until probably the end of November. Because a few people that I knew that saw it weren't a big fan of it, and that kind of turned me off a little bit from it. And lesson learned, go out and make your own judgment of these movies. But for me, it's gonna be Oppenheimer. I saw this movie, like I said, like in November timeframe, like late November, and I completely loved it. From the way the story was told, the score of it, the acting, and just the complexities of it. When you're just kind of going through, like the whole movie. Robert Downey Jr., I thought, killed it in this movie. I'm a huge Florence, fan, so she also killed it. But Emily Blunt was phenomenal in this movie. Obviously, here Murphy, like he embodied this role so well. And even a lot of the people that, you don't get that, tons and tons of screen time, but everyone had such a crucial part. And I felt when you have a cast this large, like people sometimes tend to get lost in the film. So like Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck was in it, Rami was in, like there's just so many top players that were in this movie. And sometimes when you get this many top people in it, like it ends up either being really good, which is very rare, or it's just a flop. And this one was one of those where I truly enjoyed it. Like I I loved every bit of this movie. The cinematography was great. And you would never think that a movie about, a ginormous bomb that did so much damage would be done in just such a eloquent way. And for me, it's like I saw this movie and instantly I was kicking myself for not seeing this in IMAX when I had the chance. Because I think in an IMAX theater, this movie would have been even that much better. So yeah, so that's my number two on the list.
Okay, Jorge, do you think it's gonna win Best Picture this year?
I'm gonna say no because what I put number one is what I want to win Best Picture, but realistically, yeah, this will probably win Best Picture.
Oh, I know exactly what your number one is now. Okay, all right. That's all right. That's okay. All right. So my number two came dangerously close to being my number one. But Past Lives. Past Lives was one of the most believable yet real films I think I probably have ever seen. I immediately connected with the characters. So you have childhood friends that, one of the childhood friends kind of leaves and goes away, but they have like a real connection. Like they're kind of each other's first crush, so to speak. And they keep intersecting at different times in their lives. And most of the time, it's in the most inopportune times, and yet they still engage each other so well because they have natural chemistry with each other. The performances were amazing in this. The way they handle transition and editing were amazing in this. The three leads in this are so well connected, even breaking certain barriers from a language barrier standpoint. Like it is one of my favorite films that I've seen in years, not just this year. That movie, I watched it the first time and I immediately couldn't do a review afterwards. I had to let myself feel it because I kind of felt convicted. I was like, man, this is making me think about crap. Whenever a movie can actually make me feel something like that on that kind of level is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So Past Lives is my number two this year. So we're going down to the number ones. Lucas, what is your number one film of 2023?
My number one film of 2023 is Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania.
You a gosh darn lie. What gosh darn lie.
Want to see somebody do a list and they ended with that bit.
I'm gonna put this right out here just because. Where's the joint at? I'm getting a cry too. Put a tear to the side. It's a scar, but it's a tear. What is wrong with you, man? It is a comedy, but it ain't that kind of comedy. Anyway,
It ain't that show enough. Ain't my number one film has been. I've been very consistent about this film. I pushed Jorge to watch it. I told Sam you need to watch it. My number one film is American Fiction. For me, that this is an adult. I'm trying to word it in a way that makes it not sound the way it's gonna come out. This is an adult black film. Growing up, we used to get certain type of films for black people. And this is the first time you see a lot of these characters feel like they grew from that type of film and in an adult way where they make adult decisions. As Jeffrey Wright, who to me is the greatest living actor going right now, hands down. Him as Monk in this film is great. I think this cast is amazing between him, Sterling K. Brown, Erica Alexander, Tracy Ellis Ross. Like it's so many people in this film that do a great job of it. Issa Rae, in a very small role, plays an amazing performance in her small role. But to me, what separates this film for me from any other film this year was the way the story is framed. And it's framed about how Black trauma is viewed by other races and how they possibly push that view onto us because they think that's what we need to watch. That's what we need to see. So it's another film that came out this year that to me is a perfect correlation to American Fiction. And it's one of the reasons I absolutely hated that movie because it felt the exact same way of pushing Black trauma on you and then telling you because of this is great because other races feel this is what should be presented towards you. So they do a good job of explaining that during this movie and using it as satire to push the story forward. Again, this is Jeffrey Wright's best performance I've ever seen him put on, and he's great in this film. But Sterling K. Brown, this is a career defining performance what he pulls off in this film of playing an in the closet, then out the closet gay man doctor who's extremely high on drugs and using all of it really just to safeguard himself because he's never felt a true loving relationship. And it's a scene in this film where it's a conversation between him and his brother, who's played by Jeffrey Wright, and he talks about his father seeing him and him saying, like, if dad knew I was gay, he would call me every slur humanly possible. I'm not going to say the words he said, but him saying, at least he would have seen me. If I would have came out, at least he'd have seen me. He would have known who I was. And I felt I took that away from him. It is amazingly powerful of this film while still being one of the funniest films of this year. So my number one film, and it's been my number one film since the day I saw it at TIFF, American Fiction.
Okay. All right. Jorge.
That
I
is.
think I can guess what your number
Oh
one
yeah,
is.
no, you can definitely guess. No, but I will like American Fiction is definitely one to watch, and I took Lucas up on his offer, and that movie was phenomenal. I mean I think that's a great choice. Mine was Sam's number two was Past Lives. Um, this
Wait, it wasn't Barbie?
Y'all gonna stop hating on Barbie. Barbie's mentioned in my honorable mention.
I
Barbie's a
legit thought
great
it.
movie.
I thought it was Barbie. I had
Oh
it
no,
lined up and everything. I was like, oh,
I knew Jorge's number one was gonna be Past Lives. How did
no,
I know that and you didn't know that?
no,
oh
yeah,
no.
Past Lives. It was it was the first movie that I saw this year, and I saw it near the end of the year that broke me.
Yeah.
The and everything Sam said is very true. Like it's such a believable story that anyone who ever had a childhood friend of the opposite sex like could relate to. Like watching this movie, I had a friend like this that moved away, and we still keep in touch and all that, and it's very weird. Like you watch this movie and you see the three main actors, you see like the and I don't even want to call it jealousy between like the husband and wife, and then like the friend, but you see like this weird dynamic, and the way this movie ended, like
Oof.
just yeah, like it
Oof.
literally feels like you're just getting a gut punch. Like I haven't cried in many a movies, and this was one that just broke me. Um Everything was just perfect with this movie. Like I I've I've seen this movie a couple times now, and I can't find a fault in it. Everything from the music selections that they choose to some of the camera angles and some of the images that you're kind of left with, where you can just kind of take a snapshot and you're perfectly like it's just ingrained in you. There's one bar scene that was very minimal where the main actress is talking to her childhood friend, and her husband is literally in the stool next to her, but the way that they frame it and the way that they kind of like pan out for a second, like it's so crazy the chemistry that you felt throughout this whole movie between those two characters. And basically it's almost like a story of timing, like of what if, you know, like if timing was just a little bit different, if things
Mhm.
like if we would have met 6 months later or 3 months earlier, or you know, like there's just so many like questions that when this movie ended, you literally like for me it broke me. It was just so beautifully done, um from start to finish. Like this was to me the best movie that I saw this year, and that I would, you know, happily see over and over again. It was just that good.
Yeah, Jorge, we need to do a spoil discussion on that. I had no idea that was at your top of your list at all.
Yeah, no, that one,
Did
yeah,
you not know?
I
I
that
didn't.
one,
remember Jorge talking about it.
was a fun one for me. I'll put it that way.
Man, that thing broke me, man. I
See,
couldn't do my
Past
review
Lives,
after
my issue with Past Lives, and it's not with the film,
that.
it's when I saw it. I saw Past Lives in January, and I
Cool.
just kept on slipping off my list for everything because I saw it so long ago, and I have
Mhm.
not gone to revisit it because it is not a film I need to ever see again. Nope. I can acknowledge a film is good, really, really good, and never want to watch it again. That's one of those films where you can be like, "Oh man, yeah, it is heartbreaking. I'm never going to watch this movie again." Like, but I'm glad I watched it, but I can't watch it again. Like, it's one of those type of films.
Lucas was emotionally compromised, what it was, Jorge. Straight up.
Yeah. No,
I've
it
been
was
emotionally compromised by lots of movies. I was
yeah.
emotionally compromised during the Marvels, so it happens.
Anyway, all right. So let me get to my number one.
Aquaman 2. It's all right. We understand.
My number one to me has one of the most interesting characters I think ever to come on animated screens. I think it's got the best score this year. And I think that it's probably one of the most well liked films of this year. And I'm talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider Across the Spider-Verse. For me, I saw this movie after everybody else saw it. Like I had to wait like maybe like 3 or 2 weeks after everybody else saw it. And I was kind of like, everybody was like, "Oh man, it's so good, it's so good." I was like, I don't know, it can't live up to the hype. The first one was such a good staple, and some kind of a way they elevated this on so many different levels. From an animation standpoint, some of the things they do with animation in this I've never seen done before, ever. But the thing about it is that Miles as a character, they find ways of threading him and layering him that I didn't think was possible to be this immersed into a character while also expanding every other character. You got Hobie, you got Gwen. Gwen in this was amazing how they handled her character. Also, some of the scenes and the shots that they have in this are some of the best I've seen this year. I know that this is not going to realistically win a Best Picture. It might not even get a nomination for Best Picture. But to me, this is the first animated feature film that I've seen since probably like The Lion King that I think could and should be within the realms of possibly being the Best Picture category. This is one of my favorite films, and I think the best film this year, in my personal opinion. But yeah, that is my number one. We're done. We did the daggone thing.
So hold up. So then that was right. I was the only one that named a film. Well, nope. Didn't Jorge have Oppenheimer in number 2?
He did.
Yeah.
So hmm.
Yeah.
See, so had this film that wasn't on anyone else's list. Because I said Spidey Man, that was in my honorable mention, and Jorge had at number 3A.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did anybody do Anatomy before? So it was just me.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we each had at least one.
Oh, I
That
had more than one. I clearly have. And
well,
Jorge did too.
Jorge had the most.
Jorge
Jorge had about
Jorge
3 or 4 pulled
had
out of his pocket.
not anyone else's list.
Yeah, but
Well, I think I
And then
think for me this year, like this past year, I didn't hit up. I couldn't go to like TIFF or to some of the other film festivals, and
mhm.
going to some of these smaller film festivals like Fantastic Fest and a couple of these other ones, I got to see a lot of films I got to see a lot of foreign films, first of all, which I know like I'm not a huge fan of some of them, but I'm starting to love some of these foreign films that are coming
Yeah.
out. Um, and it's like some of these films are just wild and out there. Like I wanted to put a film called Mushrooms on here that was so trippy and so wild that you're watching this movie and you're like, what am I watching? And I think that's something that I'm starting to take away the more I'm doing this like movie review critic thing is
Mhm.
a lot of the movies that we get, like, and I'm talking about in America here, they're good and like cool, like we get good ones. There are a lot of bangers that we just don't get. Like
Yeah.
last year, what was it? Holy Spider was one that
Yeah.
was phenomenal. We haven't heard a peep about that here in the US.
Right.
And I think it's stuff like that that I think the more I'm diving into this, kind of like career, it's one of those things where I'm like, I love seeing some of these movies that no one has seen or no one has heard of. Because for me, like when people watch this channel, it's like that's one of my hopes. Like if you can grab and watch one of the movies that we mentioned that people just don't even know about and just
Yeah.
start spreading it, that's how a lot of these amazing movies are going to get out. Because realistically, not everyone's going to have the Oppenheimer budget, not everyone's going to have the Spider-Man budget, um,
Mhm.
or things like that. But it's when you start getting like these smaller films, like it's phenomenal, like what you can get out of these things. So yeah, you'll always get the weird ones from me, guys. I'll leave it at that.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Look, one could just miss my top 10. And that was something that I was really
Wait,
struggling with
why don't you put in your honorable mentions?
because it missed my honorable mentions also.
Dang.
Like, like I
It's in
mean,
top
like
15.
my honorable mentions was strong. Like Barbie is amazing to me. I absolutely love that movie. Like, but it just didn't make it. And then I had Spider-Verse, your number one, Jorge's number three, in my honorable mention.
Yeah.
And I had American Fiction in my
American Fiction in your yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. If
Hell, Talk to
realistically,
Me didn't make my top 10. And that is you know
true,
how much I love that movie.
true, same,
Talk to Me
same.
was so good. Yep.
I do think that I would remove Killers of a Flower Moon just to put Sing Sing up. I ain't gonna lie to you. Sing Sing would be my number 3 or number 4, straight up. Like Lucas knows how much I love Sing. I was like, how you gonna sit there and put that joint up here? Like it's not out yet, but it's fine. It's fine. We do this every year.
Look, hey,
Do this every
I
year.
saw it in 2023. I
No,
have
but it's
nothing to
not
do
out.
that
It's not
I saw it in
out.
23. I have nothing to do when things get released. When I see a film, that's when it gets on my list. I can't
He's
go,
like,
I
that's
can't
when it's
go to
released.
23. Yeah, but I need to wait till no. We did that last year with what's the boat movie? Um Freak, the girl who was a rower and obsessed with it. I can't remember the name of it.
Freak. I'm losing it. I
Oh
know what you're talking
The girl,
about.
she was in Orphan.
I
She
know
starred
it's
in
I know what you're
Orphan.
talking about. I just can't
Yeah,
remember the name of it.
no, that one was crazy.
Yeah, I
And the
would.
boat we're talking about, I actually reviewed that movie on our channel. I absolutely love that movie.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
boys, like
yeah,
it's a great little touching film.
yeah.
I
And
think that's
that's right. Because last year you put Brothers on your top 10 list, but Brothers
Brothers is
came
my
out this
number
year,
one. Brothers
right?
was my number one film last year.
But it's out
Again,
this year,
yeah, it came out this year. I don't wait. I don't have time to wait. I saw it when I saw it. I
but I
did the
mean,
same thing with Boy Behind the Door. When Boy
right?
Behind the Door released a year later, and it was when we did this, it was like my number 8 movie because I
Yeah,
saw it that year. I don't believe in holding back there. So, I mean, it's a thing with these films, especially since we see so many of them.
yeah.
It's hard to put together a top 10 list because you feel like you're cheating certain movies out. Like Zone of Interest not being in the top 10 it's a great movie, but it's hard. Anatomy of the Fall for me, same thing. Like I saw that film. I love that movie. I didn't see First Slam Dunk because obvious reasons. But like, but like Boy in the Harem, I saw that. Like that's a great film. Just because it doesn't make the top 10 doesn't mean the film's not great. But when you're narrowing it down to your top 10, it really comes to your personal preference.
Yeah.
Like what affects you the most, and that's what garners into your top 10.
Yeah,
All of us say, like, you know, I don't think any of us picked a downright like awful film.
no,
Like,
nah,
just doesn't happen.
because even with
I
Godzilla, I would have never even looked at Godzilla unless y'all hadn't have been talking about it. Y'all were like, "Hey, yo,
And I
Godzilla's
saw
pretty
Godzilla.
good."
That's the only other one of the few other foreign films I saw this year. I absolutely loved Godzilla. And Godzilla is an ass. Like, he is a villain.
Bruh,
He's
he
the
was
ultimate villain throughout that whole film. Like, it's amazing the terror that he put those poor people through.
it was rough. It was really rough.
That's the first time I've hated Godzilla. I've never hated, I've always cheered for him. And this is the first film I watched, and I said, "You bastard."
He was so vindictive. Right, he was doing stuff
Hey.
intentionally. Just yeah.
He did the nuclear attack, the nuclear breath.
That
You
jump was
don't
messed
have to do
up.
that.
That was so.
It was no need to do. It was like Godzilla was like,
Oh
"Oh,
wait, no, my Jorge
y'all,
ain't seen it yet.
y'all
Jorge
want to
ain't
be
seen it yet.
peaceful? Y'all want to have peace and quiet? Nope." He was like a toddler who comes through when everything's calm and destroys everything. That was Godzilla.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, Jorge, when you see it, you'll know
Oh,
exactly.
Jorge,
what I'm
you've
talking
not
about.
seen it yet.
He ain't seen it
Yeah,
yet.
no, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, that is a movie to see. And I saw it in an IMAX theater in New York.
Yeah. Saw one in LA.
It is impressive to see, for sure.
But anywho, so are we gonna do a top 10 show list this year or no?
No. Hell no. You lost your mind. Top 10 shows?
We've
No,
never done that. We've never done it. So that's why
we can do top 10 shows. Okay,
how
not a
about
problem.
top 5? How about top 5?
I can do that.
I think top 10 might be
Law
a
and
little
Order
hard.
SVU.
No, wait, no,
FBI Most Wanted.
wait, we're gonna record it.
It don't take long. It's not gonna take long. Okay. Procedurals. That's it. That's gonna be a lot of procedurals for me. Procedurals and Succession. It's gonna be my top 5 shows. We could do top most disappointing movies. Because matter of fact, I said nobody put a disappointing movie on their list, and one person did, and he knew he did. That's why he tried to preface it with, "I know how other people feel about this movie." He know I don't like that movie.
Anywho, we're gonna go. Any other things we want to say? Any other movies we want to recommend?
Just look forward to 2024 and what this year will bring us, especially in a year that looks like it lacks big blockbuster films.
Yeah.
Normally, when you get that case, I think you get a lot of great smaller films to check out. So just try to check out as many independent small films as you can. Like, some of these films are absolutely great and could be life-changing if you just give it an opportunity. Even if it's on a streaming service, just check it out. Pick a random movie on a random night, be like, this seems interesting, and turn it on. And it may be something that can absolutely change your mind, change your life. I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a most anticipated movies this year. I think that'd actually be really cool to narrow that down after we've seen a little bit of stuff. But I mean, your favorite superhero franchise got a movie coming up this year.
Talking to Jorge? I don't have a superhero franchise that I like.
Venom 3 is coming out this
year. Oh, yes. Oh, little.
And Deadpool, matter of fact.
And Madam Web, because I'm going to see that too. Like, I can't wait. Trust me.
For Jorge, it's Doom most likely, or actually, I don't know. Actually,
all of y'all like Doom. I hated Doom 1.
Despicable Me. Despicable Me comes out.
You already know.
Inside Out 2,
but
and A Quiet Place Day 1. Lupita.
I don't know. Yeah, it ain't the same cast. I'm a little concerned, but I'm gonna go see it. I mean,
yeah.
Just again, this is the year to check out the smaller films. Hopefully,
yeah,
the ones that can completely surprise you and blow you away, especially horror. I think this is going to be a huge year for horror because man, horror's on the come up.
Yeah,
and if anything, we get anything remotely close American made as great as Sleep was, man,
that'll be dangerous.
Check out Sleep. If you can find it anywhere on any streaming service, Check it out. That movie is phenomenal. Sam, I know you're not gonna watch it.
No, I haven't seen it. Nobody gave it to me. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I
That
haven't
is a
seen it yet.
lie.
I didn't get it. No, I did not get it. Y'all
Jorge, you hear
got
him
it.
saying this, right? You hear him
Yes.
saying this, right?
I
We all
wanna
three
see
got
this
it. We
movie.
all three got screeners for it at TIFF.
No, I didn't make that opportunity because I couldn't. Because y'all know why. You know why, Lucas. You know
That's what I
why.
said. No, I said you wasn't gonna watch it, and I
No,
still don't think you're gonna watch it because
I
of the movie. That
Well, I
movie
mean-
ain't something that.
And you still haven't finished watching The Coffee Table. That was one of your all-time
how
faves.
dare you mention that freaking movie in my presence, dog? Look, if you want to say something about that movie, tell everybody else. Don't say that movie in my face, man.
You gotta
Lucas,
be
you know
smart.
Was it
you seen that movie that he's talking
the
about?
coffee table?
Yeah.
No.
Don't. Please,
Yeah,
God, no.
it's
Don't.
so this is I will say this is the pros and cons of watching all these foreign and independent films.
I can't believe he let me watch that.
You will come across some things that you should not be seeing.
I ain't never seen something so messed up.
Yeah, like
All year long, I've seen everything, but that movie,
yeah, that one scarred me for a few nights.
Lucas.
Wow.
I
That sounds like something I need to
want
watch.
Lucas to see it, but then I don't want him to watch it because no, I can't believe you brought that up, Jorge. Man, I was having a good night, and you're gonna sit there and bring that traumatic movie up.
Yo,
I'll say, yeah, no, I've not seen a movie so bad that it was traumatic. Like I saw Argyle Drift,
this
which
movie
is the worst headache-inducing film I've ever seen in my life.
I saw it
With
in
no
the theater
storyline.
in New York Film Festival, and I regretted it. But no, the coffee table is just messed up, Lucas. It's so freaking messed up.
That's a TV show, though.
No, wait, I don't know.
Yeah, The Coffee Table. It's a TV show.
No, this is called The Coffee Table.
Yeah. Oh wait, I'm thinking of a show. Oh, is it? I wonder, is it based off of the show?
No, this is not based off any show. It's not based off any show. This is just a messed up freaking movie.
If you're looking it up online or like on IMDb, it's in Spanish, so it's La Mesa del Comedor. But yeah, that movie it'll mess you up. Like be ready to watch that. And it won't mess you up in like an it's scary format. It'll mess you up as in like WTF.
Drama, bro. No.
Yeah.
No, bro.
You know what throws me off with that movie? It's categorized as a comedy and a dark comedy.
Bro, that is
And I'm like, there's nothing funny about that movie. Like not one thing.
Bro, like I was having a good night and you got to bring that mess up. Now I got to think about what I've seen in that. No, like for real, Lucas, I want you to see it to talk to you about it, but then I don't want you to see it at all.
Yeah, I don't want you to go through that.
Like I really don't. Like
is that traumatizing?
Look, hold on. I think
it's
this
just
is
the subject matter of it.
This is the poster of it. And it looks like a simple.
See one that looks like a demon selling furniture?
Yeah, yes, but it
just anyway, I'm gone.
If I get it subtitled, I will watch it. Like I just don't want to read and watch it.
Oh, you want it dubbed?
Yeah, you want it dubbed then. Shoot, I don't know if you got it dubbed.
Is it out?
I don't think it's out actually.
It's releasing soon. It comes out Friday.
Shut up! It comes out this. Oh my gosh, it does.
Look, I'll tell you this much: if y'all, I was gonna say if y'all want to watch it together and do like a Twitch stream or something stupid. I'm not doing that.
You see,
I can't do that. I can't watch that again.
You see it.
We gotta talk offline so I can know just why this is so bad.
Like this is Martyrs bad. I'll put it like that. Anyway, I digress. Thank you guys so much for watching our top 10. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. We got a lot more discussions, reviews, interviews, and more coverage coming from different film festivals and conventions as well. So we'll talk to you guys later. Happy New Year, guys.
Peace.
Filing out the top of the
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind. Oh Lord.